Good morning, everyone, and buongiorno a tutti. Welcome to the webinar Doing Green Business in Kenya, the third episode of our Doing Green Business series. I'm Eleonora Rella, investment promotion expert at UNIDO ITPO Italy, and focal point for Kenya in the framework of the project Fostering International Partnerships between companies and/or institutions operating in the energy and environment sectors, funded by the Italian Ministry for the Environment, Land and Sea. This webinar is going to be a virtual thematic country presentation of Kenya, providing an overview of the energy and environment sectors in the country, with a focus on investment opportunities and technological innovations, and with the aim to foster exchanges between the private sector, both in Italy and in Kenya. I am therefore pleased to introduce the panelists that we will have with us today. Diana Battaglia, Head of UNIDO ITPO Italy, His Excellency Alberto Pieri, Ambassador of Italy to Kenya, Kiara Mungai, Renewable Energy Engineer at the Ministry of Energy of Kenya, Pacifica Ogola, Secretary for Climate Change at the Ministry of Environment and Forestry of Kenya, Phyllis Wakiaga, CEO of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, Catherine Gachenji, Project Analyst at the Kenya Investment Authority, Isa da Silva, Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation at Strathmore University, and Her Excellency Jacqueline Yonga, Ambassador of Kenya to Italy. Thank you so much to everyone for being here. Before we start, please note that this webinar won't include a Q&A session because of time constraints. However, we will be glad to receive your questions and comments in the chat below, and you can also send an email to the address itpo.rome@unido.org. We will get back to you as soon as possible. Also, please know that this event will be held in English, and a recording of the webinar will be available starting from tomorrow on our website, unido.it, in the section on the FIPP project, together with all the presentations and other resources. Today's session will include both institutional and technical interventions. And while the first part of this webinar will provide an overview of the energy and environment sectors in Kenya, the second one will be more focused on the private sector and investment opportunities in the country. For those who just joined the webinar, welcome. And to start today's session, I am pleased to leave the floor to Diana Battaglia, Head of UNIDO ITPO Italy, for her welcome remarks.
Thank you, Leonora. Thank you for your great work. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, good morning. I'm delighted to welcome everyone today. Thank you for joining this virtual high-level event. It is a pleasure for UNIDO ITPO Italy to host a panel with such remarkable speakers from institutions, private sector, and academia. Extraordinary circumstances led to the organization of the webinar series, Doing Green Business. The coronavirus pandemic has had a considerable impact on our business as usual, with a halt to the organization of events worldwide. Therefore, creative solutions are necessary to continue to fulfill our mandate, enhancing the competitiveness of SMEs in developing countries through capacity building, the mobilization of investments, and the transfer of technology. In particular, energy and environment have always been pivotal of the undertaking of UNIDO ITPO Italy's activity. These sectors are also notoriously among the ones in which Italy excels. And why environmental protection and economic growth are often seen as two incompatible goals. UNIDO ITPO Italy work is aimed at identifying economic opportunities and incentives for environmentally friendly investment in developing countries and emerging economies, in line with the Sustainable Development Goals and the 2030 Agenda. Indeed, the ultimate goal on the webinar Doing Green Business in Kenya is fostering trade, technological innovation, and investment in the energy and environment sectors, contributing to the transition to a low-carbon economy and allowing the private sector in Italy and Kenya to benefit from the economy opportunity arising in these sectors. We also hope that this virtual event will represent a valuable opportunity to lay the foundation, collaborate, network, and share ideas. In conclusion, I especially thank to distinguished panelists that are here with us today and the team at UNIDO ITPO Italy for organizing this virtual event. A warm welcome to everyone again, and I wish you all a very fruitful work. Thank you. Eleonora, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for your warm welcome. I am now pleased to leave the floor to His Excellency Alberto Pieri, Ambassador of Italy to Kenya, for his opening remarks. Ambassador, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Battaglia. It's a pleasure to see you. I remember when I was Chief of Secretariat of Cooperation some years ago in Rome when you was appointed. This is important, very important role, and it's a real pleasure to share with you, if I may say, this initiative. And actually, I think it's particularly timely, and not just because in your words I can see a perfect correspondence with the Italian priorities nowadays. But I think it focuses on a priority and also for our friends of Kenya and Africa. Let me also, it's an opportunity to greet other friends such as Professor Da Silva, Ambassador Yonga. I'm very looking forward to hearing them. And but let me start with some, I think, very, very interesting figures that I read yesterday from a very recent study prepared in collaboration with the associations of Italian cooperative that, which, as you know, bring together small and medium, thousands of small and medium Italian companies, which is also a characteristic of the industrial system of Kenya, the importance of small and medium companies. In Italy, by 2024, green business companies will hire 1.6 million people, 6 for every 10 new jobs. So what does it mean? That green business is the present and the future to these the great challenges that we face nowadays in Italy, in Europe, and Africa. Because this data refers to Italy, but this path focusing on green jobs, green business is worldwide as also an answer to these challenging times under many aspects. Of course, climate change effects, but also, as Mrs. Battaglia emphasized, unfortunately, the recent COVID crisis. And combining this path, both economic, so jobs creation, income growth, but also environmental needs. This is the future. This is the recipe. This is exactly what we call a sustainable development. And Kenya, we also believe, can be actually, and actually it's already, from some aspects, a pioneer, a leading country in Africa in this regard. I don't want to invade the field of the other distinguished guests and panelists, or further also much more qualified experts than me, but let me take just an example of the renewable energy. Because as you everybody knows, energy is key enabler of development and sustainable growth. Where, in not a case, Kenya has an enormous potential in this field. Of course, talking about geothermal, first of all, but also wind and solar. I think, but our Kenyan friends will give us the correct figures. The renewable energy components in Kenya represent more than 70% of the energy Kenyan production. So it's already a leading country, but the potential is still very, very wide for further development in this field. And it's not the case that talking about renewable energies, we promote a dedicated event last January here in Nairobi and in Strathmore University. Thanks again, Professor Da Silva. Joined together with the also collaboration of Polytechnic of Milan and the Rest for Africa Foundation. I name it because it's important, because they come from different sectors of the society. An event on, as I said, renewable. We brought together, and I think this is a fundamental aspect within the strategy promoting sustainable development, which means also put a green business, actors from public and private sector from Kenya and Italy, as well as from research and development institutions. On this regard, and I think I'm sure the webinar will dedicate some space and will discuss more maybe in detail. For example, a conducive business environment, for example, regulatory system, is essential in order to attract investments in this field, in order to foster even more the current situation concerning renewable energies in Kenya as well as in other countries. Likewise, talking about renewable energies, we consider, for example, particularly valuable an initiative such as the Microgrid Academies, which is a vocational capacity building program in Nairobi, which again joined together foundation such as Rest for Africa, university, Strathmore University, but also La Sapienza University of Rome, private companies, and now, and let me say convincingly, the Italian government through our Development Cooperation Agency. But what is particularly, for example, significant in this project is that this targeted the youth and the intent to create trainers of trainees, among young skilled Kenyan and also from other African countries, in order to deploy renewable energy, especially in rural areas that are, of course, are characteristic of many African countries. They're looking at not just Kenya, but all the East Africa region. It's a pioneer, a pilot project, and we believe firmly in this success. There can be success story, both for how to involve also local community, young, in order to promote sustainable development, in particular focus on it, but also a win-win partnership between Italy and Kenya in this case. Mrs. Battaglia mentioned transfer of technology. Exactly. This is, for example, it's one of the key elements in this project. I mentioned between the actors to be mobilized all together in private sector. He can play, he has to play essential, a key role in promoting sustainable development. And exactly we are talking, I think, about today. Because when we talk doing green business, it refers exactly and notably in this particular to private company. It's not a case that we, again, convincingly, we are supporting a project like the E4 Impact Accelerator program through our cooperation to development, which is aimed at promoting startup with among young entrepreneurs, and also with a special focus on sustainable productive process. Also because, and we think it's also it fit in the strategy concerning the achievement of sustainable development goals in Kenya and overall. And it's not a case that exactly tomorrow, that I like that after this webinar with the UNIDO, we also will participate to another similar event. Tomorrow we'll have a stock-taking event in the framework of the celebration of the 2020 edition of the Italian Sustainable Development Festival. Let me quote another important field for green business in Kenya, where the primary sector is still a pillar of the economy. Agriculture is a great potential. In Italy, the market of biological, or as they call it here, organic products, has increased steadily in the last year, despite of some period of crisis and also even now. This performance, I'm sure that can be replied here in Kenya. And I'm particularly happy to see that there are also Italian NGO contributing on this goal, supporting Kenyan farmers in order to facilitate, to improve the production also towards biological organic products, and promoting sustainable agriculture that, I repeat, is a fundamental factor within the different aspects of sustainable development. Because, again, it creates income for rural community, creates jobs. So we believe firmly that promoting green business, fighting climate change with a comprehensive strategy is a global, but also a national level top priority, particularly in Africa, where despite, for example, impacting for sure less in terms than other continents, for sure for Europe, for example, in terms of emissions, I think the figure are 2 or 3% in terms of emissions compared with other continents. But Africa is mostly affected by the effects of climate change. I can quote many examples, and as you know, Lake Chad, and so on. Not by chance. Africa and energy in terms of transitions to renewable energy will be among the priority of the Italian mandate as the co-chair of COP26 together with the United Kingdom. And I would like to remind that a special focus in this agenda will devote from Italy to the youth. We believe can have a fundamental role in the African countries and societies. So it's very important, this aspect. In this spirit, actually, we will organize within our COP26 presidency 2 special events, one in Milan on youth, and one on Africa, environment and Africa, I think in the second part of the year. It's still to be defined, but the path is traced, and we believe also that this can be a very important opportunity to strengthen even more the relations between Italy and Africa, especially in this case on the field of sustainable development and the fight against climate change. The same issues will be centered in the agenda also of Italy in the G20 presidency. So as I mentioned, we believe that as far as the COVID crisis is concerned, this pandemic has opened up a new scenario for all of us. Today we have it's a challenge, but also it's an opportunity, because we can transform this difficult time in an enormous occasion to invest, to make a decisive effort to change to focus on green under all the aspects. I think this is also will be possible. The Paris Agreement, the 2030 agenda will become even more the blueprint of a post-pandemic recovery, which needs, of course, that all of us, all of our countries, but also at the internal level, private sector, institutions are together in this important mission. So to conclude, I would like just to reiterate that this initiative, in this case promoted by UNIDO, is particularly not just timely, but it's very important in order to promote an important best practices, in this case the focus on Italy, but in general, they can facilitate also a very fruitful and win-win business partnership between Italy and Kenya. This, of course, we are trying to promote and through our daily job in our embassy. And I'm sure, and it's my hope, but I'm quite optimistic that the development sustainable, focusing on green business, can be a real opportunity for a win-win partnership between Italy and Kenya, with the support and the involvement of everybody, international organizations such as UNIDO, which they know-how, university, private sector, foundation. It's a goal that requires the contribution of all of us, but I'm sure that we all share this important objective. Thank you so much. I'm very looking forward to hear the other panelists, and I would like to reiterate the full readiness and willingness of our embassy to support, facilitating further initiatives in this sector here in Kenya. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your intervention, Ambassador, and for stressing the importance of green business and partnerships. And now let's welcome Kiara Mungai, Renewable Energy Engineer at the Ministry of Energy of Kenya, on behalf of Mr. Isaac Kiba, Secretary for Renewable Energy, for a focus on clean energy sources in the country. Mr. Mungai, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Renata, and thank you very much, UNIDO ITPO in Rome, and the Italian government, as represented by the ambassador here, for the support and what we are doing in supporting Kenyan government in development of renewable energy, especially in capacity building. There's a lot that West Africa and the government of Italy has done for us. So for me, I'll give a brief, I'll try to make it brief, development of energy in Kenya, and make these, share this. Good, here we are. This presentation was to be done by my boss, Engineer Kiva. Unfortunately, is not available, but we will share what we have. So I'll start with some introduction and then talk about our journey, especially in development of green energy. So let's start where we are. Kenya has approximately population about 48 million, with a GDP of about 75 billion USD. So it's really a growing economy. And we have a installed capacity of about 2.8 gigawatt, with a generation of about 11.5 gigawatt hours per year. And one thing you can note here is that our consumption is about 8.7 gigawatt hours. So there's a mismatch here, especially because there's a lot of losses happening in the system, and I see that as a potential area of collaboration between Kenyan businessmen and Italian businessmen. And come to potential, we have quite a big potential in the renewable energy, starting with geothermal. As the Rift Valley closes the country, there's a lot, about 10,000 megawatts in geothermal. The same with the wind potential, and then solar. So we can see there's a lot that we can generate in Kenya. As per Energy Act of 2019, you find that we have we structured how the energy sector is, with the ministry up there doing the policy direction, and also we have our regulator EPRA, and then we have generation, transmission, and distribution system. And one thing you can notice is that we have IPP, that is independent power producers in generation. And currently we are working to see how KETRAC, which is a government-owned company, can start doing PPP projects and transmission. And we bring in private sector to invest in transmission. And then we have REREC. REREC is what we used to call rural electrification. Now we call it rural electrification renewable energy, coming in to help in renewable energy and rural electrification. This is our vision and mission, and our mission is really to try to bring competitive and quality energy for Kenyans, and it's what is guiding us when we come up with our objectives. And one main, we kind of have three main objectives. That's increase in generation, mainly coming from cheaper and sustainable renewable energy sources. This is mainly renewable energy, and this will help us lower the cost of power and mainly to industrial customers and domestic customers. At the same time, we are trying to expand our transmission system. As you have seen, is that there's a big potential with the population of about 48 million and installed capacity about 2.8 gigawatt. There's a big potential of more energy so that we can grow our industries. So with that, when we generate more, we need to do more transmission system, and also the other one is connect more people with electricity. As you can see down there is that there's a big gap that we need to fill in, and we are asking private sector whether they can come in to help to make the gap shorter and reach our objective of universal access. At the ministry, our main roles are policy and government, especially the Ministry of Land and Sea, to see how we can have a collaboration in building and developing renewable energy in Kenya. So Minister of Energy, we sit up there as policy, resource mobilization, and oversight of other sectors in the energy sector. Our installed capacity, Ambassador has mentioned, we want to see how we are. I talk about 2.8 gigawatt. This is how it is. You have geothermal at about 793, hydros, and wind currently at 335. This is Lake Turkana. We have biomass. This is a biogas and also a cogeneration plant. And we have solar power plant. This is owned by let's say, government through Renewable Energy Corporation. And you have thermal power plants. And come to generation, we are trying to reduce what we are getting from thermal power plant. As you can see, it's just 6%. The rest, 94%, is coming from green sources, meaning geothermal, wind, and solar. This has been our focus, to reduce as much as possible what we are generating from thermal power plants and generate more from geothermal, hydro, wind, and solar. As we grow, we have our expansion plan. We're also revising this year. And our goal is to avail capacity ahead of demand. Our industry is saying that, and Phyllis Kiara maybe will mention this, that we don't have enough capacity. So what we are trying to see is we plan ahead of demand, and we avail the capacity for electricity early before demand comes, and try to cater for reserves, especially when we have low hydrology. Our system also still depends a little bit on hydros. So when we have low hydrology, we have a situation where we cannot be able to meet our demand. So we tend to have a bigger reserve to cater for low hydrology. And as I said, the focus is more on renewable energy sources like solar and wind. And how do private sector come in? We have the first phase through competitive bidding. This is mainly through PPP arrangement, and from our planning perspective, we know how much we need, and we advertise this to bring in private sector. We also have feed-in tariff. This has been in place since 2008, and we have seen so many projects now coming in, especially on solar, wind, and small hydros, coming through feed-in tariffs. This is unsolicited bids. Any investor who wants to come up with a power plant is able to come in through the feed-in tariffs. without waiting for advertisement. You can come to the Ministry of Energy, bring the express of interest, and we are able to look at it and approve. The other way is through PPP, through concessions. This is what we are trying to see. We are doing it in Geothermal, where private sector is given a block, and then they can able to develop it from the studies, exploratory drilling until get the production drilling, and then sell power to Kenya Power. We usually, as the government, facilitate as much as we can to see investors who invest in this are able to get the requisite documents and everything. On that, government of Kenya have tried to make sure it's easier to do business, and that duty and power generation equipment is mainly waived for those who want to do power generation projects. And we have come up with a policy, especially on what we call government letter of support. This helps the developers to get financing for their projects. At the same time, we have already developed resource maps for wind, solar, small hydro, and geothermal, and we keep updating this as time progresses. And currently, we are working to make sure now they are available on GIS system. Now, when we talk about our journey, as you see that picture there, it's two pictures of Kenya at night, one in 2012 and the other one in 2017, and you need to update this to 2020. And you can see a big difference as we try to rectify, we get more generation and we try more people. The lighting is different. As you can see, at the middle is where most of our people live. But still, there's a big potential in northern Kenya and eastern Kenya, where what we are doing microgrids. Ambassador has talked about the Microgrid Academy, which is hosted by Kenya Power here in Nairobi. And the purpose is to train our people to be able to develop and also be able to maintain what we call mini grid. These are systems that are not connected to the grid, and this powers the rest of Kenya where we have no grid, especially in northern Kenya. So this is the journey. You can see we have grown from 2000, and we have about 500,000 people connected, and now we are talking about 7.7 million people connected to electricity. And it's a good journey, but we are saying we are still not yet there. We want to reach a universal access for everyone. Now when it comes to how I've talked about 7.7 million, that's about 78%. So our people have been connected to the grid, but still there's a very big number, about 30%, that are yet to be connected, and they're using other forms of energy, and we want them to use clean energy like electricity, especially because we are generating most of this electricity from green sources. So when it comes to connectivity, we are working on what called just spatial planning tool. This is how we plan, and we plan to connect our people. We launched the National Electrification Strategy in 2008 based on this tool, and we came up with 3 ways of connecting people. That's grid extension and grid desertification. This is connecting more people to the grid. And then we have mini grids for those who cannot be connected to the grid. We are hoping can be able to connect them to the microgrids. And then if we are not able to connect people to all those 2 systems, and mini grids and a grid, we can also try to see whether they can be able to do standalone solar systems. These are systems that are given to people to use at home to charge their phone and lighting. So that's a brief presentation of what we have been doing in Kenya and hoping to do more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your intervention, Mr. Mungai, and for the interesting overview of the energy sector in Kenya. Our next speaker is Pacifica Ogola, Secretary for Climate Change at the Ministry of Environment and Forestry in Kenya. for a glance at the policy framework in place in the country with respect to the environment and climate change. Dr. Ogola, please, you have the floor.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you very much, Eleanor. His Excellency Ambassador Ambassador Yonga, representative of the Italian government in this meeting, representatives of UNIDO and other UN agencies, colleagues from Kenya government, private sector, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Pacifica Ogola and the head of Climate Change Directorate in Kenya. Just before I start talking about the policies, I just want to say that Kenya is experiencing COVID-19 pandemic in the backdrop of locust invasion and recent floods across the country, which have caused mudslides, submerging homes, schools, roads, hospitals, farmlands, and even loss of lives. We are currently experiencing prolonged rainfall, which has also led to overflowing of most of our Rift Valley lakes, which has now turned into a crisis that we are trying to handle. And to recover from the economic slowdown caused by COVID-19, the government of Kenya injected 54 billion Kenya shillings towards the economic stimulus package to support critical sectors to recover better. The stimulus package included an allocation of an equivalent of 2 billion Kenya shillings to the environment and climate programs in order to help us respond and to cope with the loss and damage that we experienced during the pandemic period, during the COVID pandemic, and as a result of floods. The recent statement of the state of global climate by the World Meteorological Organization indicates that the year 2019 was, of course, the second and the third warmest year on record. And as concentrations of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere hit the record level of 407 parts per million per year in 2018, this was seen to continue to rise in 2019. And Africa, due to its geographic location, is not spared from this impact of climate rise. Kenya, in recognition to the serious threats posed by climate change, has taken and continued to take bold measures to secure the country's development against the risks and impacts of climate change. Our policy instruments include the Constitution of Kenya, our Vision 2030 Blueprint, our Climate Change Framework Policy, Climate Finance Policy, Climate Change Act, National Climate Change Action Plan, National Adaptation Plan, and Green Economic Strategy and Implementation Plan. Kenya has also ratified several international agreements in order to effectively respond to climate change, some of which include the Paris Agreement, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and other conventions like the UN Convention on Biological Diversity and also the UN Convention on to combat desertification. And to combat desertification and also address the climate change and to reduce the rate at which the biodiversity is lost in Kenya, we are taking deliberate steps as a Ministry of Environment to make sure that we restore degraded lands and attain the 10% tree cover strategy, which is also part of our constitutional requirements. Over and above our climate change policies, we also have Environment Management and Coordination Act of 2019, which governs environmental concern and safeguards. And we have Water Act of 2016, Energy Act. I think most of the provisions of the Energy Act have been spoken about by the previous speaker. And on an example of the energy sector, the strategic objective is to ensure an electricity supply mix that is based mainly on renewable, is resilient to climate change, and promotes energy efficiency, and also encourages transition to clean cooking to reduce demand for fuel wood. You've heard from most of the conversation around energy focuses on grid electricity, but for us in climate change, we also think about the woman in the kitchen and the children who go out to collect firewood and consuming time, and how these people can be transitioned into cleaner and more efficient energy. So with this, the climate change objective also focuses on increasing renewable energy for electricity generation focusing on climate resilience and that account for the needs of the rural community. And we are also focusing in our climate change strategy to improve energy efficiency and energy conservation and to climate-proof energy infrastructure. These are going to be very key ingredients in ensuring sustainable and secure energy for our people and our communities. But we can only achieve this through both grid and non-grid energy structures, and also including home solar lighting systems. And in terms of readiness for finance, we have a national policy on climate finance and a climate change fund that has been formulated as a national financing mechanism for priority climate actions in Kenya. We have also a national implementing entity to facilitate the direct access to both adaptation fund and the Green Climate Fund, which demonstrate our readiness to climate finance for the implementation of our priority adaptation as well as mitigation contribution. We are in the processing of taking stock of all our actions beyond the energy sector, including the other sectors which we are prioritized in our action plan, to make sure that we are able to track and monitor both the actions and also the means of implementation. Some of the challenges that we experience while taking climate action is lack of information, lack of instrument for early warning preparedness for disasters that keep recurring like floods and drought, and also technologies that can help us transition faster, given that we have the opportunity to leapfrog technology. And we therefore very thankful for the Italian government and all our development partners. And I'm happy that the Kenya Climate Innovation Center is also in the room. They have worked closely with us to make sure that we are able to do a lot of research on most appropriate technology that we're able to transition into a low carbon climate resilient technologies. As a Ministry of Environment, we welcome the opportunity to work with UNIDO and also welcome the support from the Italian government. And with those few remarks, I thank you very much. Back to you, Eleanor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ogola, for your interesting insights on environment and climate change in Kenya, and of course for the participation of the Ministry of Environment and Forestry in this virtual event. Just a quick reminder for our audience, feel free to write your questions and comments in the chat below, or send an email to itpo.rome@unido.org, and we will get back to you at the soonest. We are now getting to the second part of this webinar that will be more focused on the private sector and investment opportunities in Kenya. And I am glad to introduce our next speaker, Phyllis Wakiaga, CEO of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. She is the voice of the industry in Kenya. Welcome, Ms. Wakiaga, and you have the floor.
Thank you very much for welcoming me. Allow me to start by recognizing the head of the UNIDO ITPO, the Ambassador, Embassy of Italy in Nairobi, the Secretary for Renewable Energy, the Secretary for Climate Change Directorate, the Project Analyst, Kenya Investment Authority, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research Innovation at Strathmore University, and everyone present. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm pleased to join you today as we unpack green business. Allow me to share a little bit about the Association of Manufacturers. We are a representative body representing the manufacturing and value-add industries in Kenya, and we have been at the forefront of driving the issues around industry and the growth of industry in Kenya. The association has existed since 1959, which is over 60 years, and through the fact-based advocacy, CAM partners very closely with government and its different ministries, departments, and agencies to ensure that we have a dynamic and flourishing manufacturing sector in Kenya, and also to grow employment within the country. As an association, we champion for the adoption of critical tenets of sustainable development, green growth towards actualizing a green economy that meets the current generation needs without compromising the ability to meet the needs of the future generations. And we've worked closely with a number of partners who have spoken this morning. So in terms of green business, green business adopts principles, policies, and practices that improve the quality of life for customers, employees, communities, and the planet. They are socially and environmentally responsible, create jobs, and improve communities and the quality of life. Most importantly, green business aims to ensure the sustainability of the environment we live in by ensuring that we protect our environment and the natural resources. The role of industry in developing and deploying solutions on a global scale to problems caused by climate change cannot be underscored. It is, however, important to note that businesses can innovate and deliver solutions at scale by working with like-minded stakeholders, including government, development partners, and environmentalists. So as the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, we have understood and known the importance of driving green business over the years. And this is an agenda that we have been driving for over 15 years and worked closely with partners, including the Ministry of Energy, Strathmore, who are represented. We've had forums also with the Embassy of Italy and some of your partners. So some of the things we champion include lowering energy consumption and improving energy efficiency within the country. We also champion the issues around eliminating waste and the use of sustainable material. We are also keen about adhering to environmental laws, regulations, and best practices, purchasing of green equipment, products, and services, environmental, social, and economic sustainability, which preserves the resources for future generation. We are keen about reducing the manufacturer's carbon footprint as they operate and preventing pollution and waste in the country. So these are some of the initiatives we try to inculcate as much as possible within our membership and drive behavior change in cases where it's required towards this. So I'll share a little bit about some of the initiatives we have had in place to promote sustainable manufacturing and the circular economy in Kenya so that we help manufacturers make strides towards being green businesses. So one of them is promoting efficient utilization of energy efficiency and conservation. This we have done through the Center for Energy Efficiency and Conservation, which we have had at the association for the last 15 years. This was a center established in 2006 in partnership with the Ministry of Energy in Kenya. And out of it, we've been able to carry out energy resource efficiency audits. We have a recognition system every year that celebrates and recognizes businesses that have been very efficient in utilization of energy. We've also had a lot of capacity building and also the move towards renewable energy within the manufacturing sector. We also do a lot of awareness because, of course, knowledge is power, and we carry out awareness on climate change mitigation and participate in policy formulation with the government. So even the Climate Change Act, and Dr. Pacifica is also on this call, we've been able to participate as an association in a lot of policy formulation. And the impact of climate change is already being felt in Kenya, as you heard earlier from the earlier speaker, and it's expected to have a direct effect on both energy supply and demand, as well as energy-related infrastructure. Then the other area we have been active in is working with the financial sector to provide financial solutions to green energy initiatives in order to mitigate climate change. And out of a program we've been working on, we provide technical assistance to project developers who wish to implement renewable energy and energy efficiency projects. And we've also supported and built capacity of the local financial banks in the region because this is a project we ran in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, and had a credit facility that has been channeled towards renewable energy. At CAM, we also host the Responsible Care program in Kenya, which is an initiative by industry aimed at enhancing performance, discovering new business opportunities while improving employee safety and the health of the surrounding communities and the environment. The program is geared at moving all Kenyans towards a safer and more sustainable future. We also drive issues around the sector on sustainable waste management solutions that look at addressing behavior change and economic inequality, which lie at the heart of our waste problem. This really involves creating awareness for proper waste disposal, right from the home to waste collection, transportation, segregation, and recycling. And that way we are able to stimulate a thriving and valuable industry for the country. And this is one of those labor-intensive sectors which can create a lot of employment, and an area we have started working in significantly. Last week, for example, we partnered with Takani Mali, a waste recycling program, to raise awareness on responsible waste management in all parts of the country. We've also partnered with the Bakers Association of Kenya to manage bread plastic waste. And we have now started a Kenya Producer Responsibility Organization at CAM that is looking at extended producer responsibility. And then the last example I'll give is the framework of cooperation we have between the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, the National Environment Authority, and the association, where the private sector through CAM is seeking to reduce plastic waste in the environment through collection and recycling. So those are just an example of some of the initiatives that we have. So whereas green business models are becoming increasingly popular, Kenyan companies still face challenges in promoting circularity and sustainability in their operations. Hindrances include issues like the lack of capital to go green, poor collaboration between circular economy and sustainability teams and financial institutions, lack of metrics to account for the level of sustainability, lack of comprehensive integrative strategies to harmonize green processes have also slowed down the full achievement of a green economy. We, however, recognize that we all have a role to play to ensure that businesses and industries go green, both locally and internationally. And from an international front, we are also the host of the Global Compact Network in Kenya, and the UN Global Compact is very keen about driving the SDGs and sustainable business practices. So as an industry, we are committed and we are at the forefront of driving the establishment of a circular economy towards sustainable managing of waste, conserving of the environment, and managing our biodiversity, and moving towards a green future. So we look forward to collaborating with the different stakeholders and partners on board today in driving this agenda. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wakiaga, for providing us with the private sector perspective on these issues. And now I'm pleased to leave the floor to the Kenya Investment Authority for a presentation focused on investment opportunities in Kenya. We have with us Catherine Gachenje, Project Analyst at Kenya Invest. Ms. Gachenje, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Rera, for inviting Kenya Invest to participate in this important meeting. Of course, I take cognizance of UNIDO ITPO office in Italy, Kenya Embassy in Italy, the ambassador of Italy in Kenya, Kenya Innovation Climate Center, Professor Disiza, Ministry of Energy, Engineer Kiara, CEO CAM, Phyllis, Head of Climate Innovation Center, Ministry of Environment, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to start by introducing what Kenya Invest does. The mandate of Kenya Invest is a parastatal in the public sector with a mandate of investment facilitation and promotion, private investment. We also have a role of policy advocacy, aftercare, and investment tracking. I don't want to repeat what Engineer Kiara said, but basically this is a map of Africa and showing where Kenya is placed in Africa. He gave the demographics and GDP. And this is an illustration of investment projection up to year 2030. An illustration also of FDI inflows and growth in the country. Strong market access and good trade the diagram on the left shows top destinations for Kenya products in 2019, and on the right shows top export products in 2019. How is Kenya business environment for private investments? This is indicators by World Bank, how we are faring as a country from position 170 to 56 in 2019. And on the right shows that Kenya is a leading ICT hub in Africa. And this also is part of doing business, environment, and competitiveness, how we've been rated by other institutions. And it's a plus for private investments in the country. At Kenya Investment Authority, we have a portal for e-regulations for investors. And in the e-regulations portal, we have procedures, we have a time frame, licensing for the private investments. How is Kenya safe in doing business, and how are the investors guaranteed that the investments are taken care of? Kenya is a member of International Court of Arbitration. It's also a member of International Center for Investment Disputes. It is also a member of MIGA, Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, Africa Trade Insurance Agency, and our constitution also guarantees protection for private investments. Diverse and rich investment opportunities in our transformative Vision 2030. We have investment opportunities in tourism, agriculture, manufacturing, oil and gas, business processing, offshoring, trade, blue economy, and financial services. Something that I would like to mention is all these the investments are in the green space. We've been working closely with UN, UNCTAD, and National Environment Management Authority to ensure that the investments are sustainable in nature. The government of Kenya has what we call the Big Four agenda, and we are promoting and facilitating 4 sectors. That is manufacturing, food security, affordable housing, universal health coverage. The opportunities in manufacturing are textile, apparel production, leather processing, manufacture of construction materials and equipment, agro-processing opportunities, heavy industries, ICT products and services. In manufacturing, we have 2 programs, export processing zones and special economic zones. And in these zones, we have incentives for the sector. For export processing zones, we have 10 years corporate tax holiday, 10 years withholding tax on payments to non-residents, stamp duty exemption, import duty and VAT exemption on raw materials, machinery, and other inputs. The supply of taxable goods and services is 0 rated for VAT, exemption from import declaration fee. In special economic zones, we have 10% corporate tax in the first 10 years, 15% corporate tax in the next 10 years, and 25 years thereafter. 25% thereafter. Stamp duty exemption, VAT exemption on raw materials, machinery, and other inputs. The supply of taxable goods and services is 0 rated for VAT. Exemption from declaration fee. This is the map of Kenya showing where the special economic zones are located and the export processing zones. The black dots represent export processing zones. The red triangles represent special economic zones. Currently, there are 75 gazetted export processing zones. 71 are privately owned and are operational. 4 are public zones. 137 private enterprises are already operating in the export processing zones. In the special economic zones, there are 9 gazetted zones, 6 privately owned and operational, 3 public zones under development, that is Dongokundu, Konza, and Naivasha Industrial Park. Still on the 4 big agenda, we have investment opportunities in affordable housing, developing of low-cost housing on a public-private partnership arrangement, setting up factories for industrial building systems, financing affordable homes, engage in joint ventures with the county governments for affordable housing, and construction of fast-moving systems within urban centers. And we still have an incentive of 15% corporate tax for developers of 100 low-cost residential units and above. Still on the 4 big agenda, we have food and nutrition, and the opportunities for investments are large-scale commercial agricultural production of agricultural inputs, agricultural equipment, agricultural support services. And on universal health coverage, we have opportunities in private healthcare facilities and services, private of medical commodities and equipment, digitization of healthcare, provision and implementation of alternative financing in healthcare. LAPSET. LAPSET is a project that covers 3 countries. It is Lamu Port, Southern Sudan, Ethiopia Transport Corridor. And the investment opportunities in this program are building of highways, railways, port cities, special economic zone at Lamu Port City, oil pipeline, regional airports, and all these projects cover the 3 countries mentioned. Most of them are on government public-private partnership arrangement, and others can be taken entirely by private investors. We also have another project, Silicon Savannah, Konza City Opportunities. It's a huge investment project on 5,000 acres developed in phases. And in this project, there are opportunities in media, sports and entertainment, light industries, residential houses, international hospitals, hospitality industry, universities and schools, research centers, incubation facilities, and infrastructure projects which are also on PPP's arrangement. This is projection of our energy sector. We have capacity at 2,700 megawatts. Engineer Mungai actually gave detailed information on this. I'll not dwell much on it. And he gave a number of investment opportunities in energy. I'll also skip that. For more specific sector investment opportunities, we have a portal, e-opportunities, and investments are categorized by type, sector, and location. And location could be counties. I've mentioned about the mandate of Ken Invest. Ken Invest also facilitates investments through collaboration with other government institutions for ease of doing business. And we have a physical one-stop center at KenInvest. We have institutions such as Company Registry, Kenya Revenue Authority for PIN and tax issues, Department of Immigration for work permits, visas, and special passes. We work with NEMA, National Environment Management Authority, for doing environmental impact assessments and licensing. I mentioned earlier that these are green or sustainable investment. That's why we have NEMA with us. We also have Special Economic Zones Authority and Export Processing Zones Authority at their one-stop center for those who want to set up in those programs. We have Ministry of Lands for registration of land. We have Kenya Power for power connection. And many are still on this, they still plans to have other institutions still coming to the one-stop center. This is a facilitatory center, and investors do not have to move from one government office to another for their investment facilitation. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Ms. Gachenja, thank you very much for your intervention and for the interesting insights on the business environment in the country. We are very grateful for the participation of the Kenya Investment Authority. And next, we have with us Israel da Silva, representing academia and the innovation ecosystem in Kenya. He is professor at Strathmore University and Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation. He is also the director of the Strathmore Energy Research Center and serves on the board of the Kenya Climate Innovation Center. Professor da Silva, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be given this platform to talk about Kenya and about this region called East Africa, which is very dynamic and definitely has the right to catch the eyes of investors in Europe and America and elsewhere in the world. So one interesting thing is that Engineer Kiara, my good friend, has done a very good job for me, because I was to talk to you about the state of renewable energy in Kenya, and he came and told everything practically that I was to tell you. And then also I was to talk to you about the situation of the country in terms of the energy mix. And he actually did that very well with showing clearly the situation of Kenya in the world today in terms of adoption of renewable energy. So I am now given a nice platform where I can give you some of my insights in the sector of energy from the viewpoint of academia in Kenya. So the first thing I would like to talk to you who are now attending this webinar, but also perhaps the hundreds of other people who would eventually find time to go through this important set of information once this presentation, this webinar is posted in the website of ITPO. Yeah. So the first thing is that there is something that we are actually doing in Kenya, which is called the Triple Helix. The Triple Helix is actually a way of working that can have high impact, that has a deep impact, and that has a long-lasting impact. The triple helix means that you get one area of interest and you put together the government, also NGOs and development partners. You put together the private sector. You know, Madame Phyllis, she is very powerful because unless you have the private sector being able to make money, sustainability doesn't happen. And you have academia, where we do research and development, we do product development, we do innovation. So when you have these three together, you have impact, high impact, deep impact, long-lasting impact. As example of this, you can have the Silicon Valley in the United States, in California, with ICT. They are contributing to the wealth of the United States because they put together the government, giving them free land and soft landing like the free zones that we also have in Kenya. They bring in the top private sector agents like Lenovo and SAP and what can be the Microsoft and ETC, all those might people who and eventually you get academia. They go and pick the best brains from MIT, from Berkeley, from technological big universities like Carnegie Mellon. They bring them in, they develop products, and everybody profits. The whole planet profits. So I would say we here in Africa, you can have in Kenya, it's called the Savannah Valley, isn't it? It's a Silicon Valley in Kenya, where we have an incredible amount of people, brilliant people who speak good English and have developed the ICT industry, and it's here. You know, just to mention the M-Pesa, for instance, that is one application developed here, which is moving more money than all the international banks in Kenya together. Yeah, so it becomes a national issue. If M-Pesa stops working today, you have a problem. The country has a problem, you see? So this is the power of innovation. This is the power of the triple helix. And we are committed to that. The government has as Kiara mentioned, the PPP, the public-private partnership. You want to come to BOOT, come for generation, for transmission, for distribution. Yes. And we are doing good business. We are, you can come, as he said, unsolicited bids because we have the feed-in tariff, but we are also shortly presenting auctions. The government can come out and tell the EPC community, says, look, come to Kenya and put 80 megawatt of solar near Eldoret for me. And then you discuss the prices like an auction. The one who wins eventually takes it, and there you are. We have power to sustain development, and at the same time, the investors are very happy because they get their return. So this is important. And then another issue which is very interesting to mention regarding Kenya is that Kenya is a hub to provide highly skilled people to the region. If you go to Uganda, to Rwanda, to Tanzania, to South Sudan, you find a lot of people from Kenya. Why? Because they are good at the business, they are good at IT, they are exposed, and that's it. What are they doing? They are using their skill to raise the economic and scientific level of the whole region. And this is very important, the human factor, because eventually, who changes the planet, who changes a country, who changes a continent are human beings, provided they are skilled, provided they are passionate about it. You get examples like Muhammad Yunus, the one who created the Grameen Bank in Bangladesh. That man, one man, but passionate and skilled in economics. He began the Grameen Bank, and the rest is history. You have millions, but millions of women whose lives have been touched by this man and his passion and his skill. By the same token, you can think about Steve Jobs or Mother Teresa. And so we want the next Steve Jobs, the next Muhammad Yunus to come from Kenya, because they are having a good education, they are learning a lot of things, they are innovative, and they go out there. And then they are young. This country, more than 50% of the people in Kenya are below 19. So this is marvelous. So that's the second thing I wanted to talk to you. And then the third one is that I am in the university, and I also obviously believe in working with the government. Currently, for instance, we are working with the Minister of Energy on a project called COSAP. Yeah, COSAP means the Kenya Off-Grid Solar Access Project. It is a $150 million project supported by the World Bank, and there is all the 47 counties of Kenya are busy preparing their county energy plan for 5 years, how they are going to develop, how they are going to get energy right. So this is a paradise for investors. So 47 countries. We are working with the government with a GIS-based tool that Kiara showed in his presentation, where you map the places for small hydro, places for geothermal, places for wind, and places for solar, then consumption areas, schools, health centers. It's an amazing thing that is happening, and we should know that. It's important that ITPO provides us with such a forum where we can come and talk to you, and then of course many people can say, oh, interesting, let me get more information about it and come here. So we believe in educating people. I want to mention that the ambassador of Italy, Alberto Pieri, who is with us, we have been working together. He is encouraging us a lot to develop the renewable energy mind in our students. We have 6,000 students in Strathmore. They are to become 6,000 green minds, because they have to see the importance of solar, of wind, and of creating wealth instead of going out there and buying petrol or heavy fuel oil or coal. We don't have a place for those things, not any longer, if you want to be responsible regarding the environment. And what we are doing is to train them, but also, as the ambassador mentioned, with the Rest for Africa and the NEL Foundation, we are building capacity at undergrad level, at master's level, and at PhD level. Actually, NL Foundation, which is a foundation from NL, which is the utility of Italy, they have been helping us. And we created something called Open Africa Power, which is we are giving the ability for engineers, lawyers, IT people, and business people to develop their PhD based on the challenge of universal access to electricity to each and every one of the 1.25 billion Africans, who will be 2.5 billion in 2040, in 20 years' time. So I feel very excited about being part of this. I'm sure Leonora is going to tell me that my time is finished, but what I want to tell you, come and look at us. Take a close look at Kenya. Yeah, I could tell you a bit more about Kenya Climate Innovation Center that was also mentioned by Dr. Ogola, because yes, we are helping people to cut carbon. In fact, I used to be member of a platform called Africa EU Energy Partnership. That platform had a target for Europe to get to 20% renewable energy by 2020. We are in 2020, and we haven't got the 20% renewable yet. But in Kenya, on weekends, when you have the industries are closed, we have 100% renewable energy. This over Saturday and Sunday is a country with zero carbon emission. It is amazing, isn't it? And we want more, as the graphic of Madame of Kenya Invest showed. So great, thank you very much for the platform. I'm open. I think the ITPO Rome can give you more information about all of us who have spoken here, but I really appreciate the support of the ambassador of Italy and also the companies from Italy which are finding it wise to come and do business with Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Da Silva, for your very interesting intervention and for sharing your time and expertise with us. Now, to conclude this thematic presentation of Kenya, we have the pleasure to welcome Her Excellency Jacqueline Yonga, Ambassador of Kenya to Italy, for her closing remarks. Ambassador, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for inviting me and for the collaboration that exists. Ambassador Pierre, my very good counterpart in Kenya, I appreciate his remarks. Diana, the UNIDO head, thank you so much for your collaboration with the embassy and for involving us right from the beginning in this. And of course, Rela has kept us informed until now. Phyllis Wakiaga from CEO KEPSA, I want to appreciate that, and Dr. Ogola of Climate Change, and all my colleagues who have participated from Kenya, from Mungai, who was representing the Dr. Kiva, Catherine Madenge, who was given a very good narrative of Kenya Invest Authority, and of course, Professor Silva has given a very beautiful dimension of what is going on. And I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for all that, and we continue to collaborate. My name, as you said, is I'm Jacqueline Yonga, Ambassador of Kenya to Italy. I've been here for 1 year. The vast majority even of my colleagues in Kenya might not have known. So Diana, you did a good job to bring us together. We talk with some of our colleagues in different institutions, but we haven't had the opportunity to come together, especially during this time of the pandemic lockdown. I thank you very much for choosing the topic, doing green business in Kenya. I think it's very suitable at this point in time with what is going on around the world and picking up from the pandemic and knowing what the climate issues have now forced the world to tackle with. Let me equally acknowledge and thank all the distinguished panelists and my fellow Kenyans. This was a very excellent, informative, and enriching presentations that I've had and we've shared. Allow me, therefore, to give some general closing remarks on this very timely subject matter. First, Kenya and Italy have a fantastic, cordial, deep bilateral relations. And that enabling environment is what has made us have this forum today. And the testimonies, both of us with Dr. Pierre and the UNIDO, that institution has come together to give this presentation. As you are aware, Kenya's support and inclination for the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Paris Agreement on Climate Change cannot be underestimated. It is anchored on its drive to embrace environmentally sound technologies to mitigate and fight against climate change and in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Kenya's fast-growing economy is the largest in East Africa and serves as a trade and investment hub for both East and Central Africa. And you've seen the exhibitions that have been given by the Kenya Invest and all those who have spoken before me. Agriculture and tourism account for nearly half of Kenya's GDP. Kenya is highly vulnerable to the effects of climate change, environmental shifts, and associated social effects. According to Kenya National Climate Change Action Plan of 2013-2017, extreme climate events could cost the economy as much as $500 million a year, equivalent to about 2.6% of the country's GDP. Such losses are detrimental to our growth and result from lower crop and livestock yields, forest fires, damage to fisheries, reduced hydropower generation, lower industrial production, and reduced water supply. In addition to the effects of climate change, Kenya has also been facing costs from environmental pollution, which adversely affects human health and raises the risk of vulnerabilities. To counter these trends, Kenya is moving towards increased investments in areas such as sustainable agriculture and green resilient infrastructure for transport, water, and waste management. Green resilience here referring to ability of the system to continue operating as external conditions change and to adapt to changes in temperature, precipitation, and other variables. In the context of climate change, green resilience infrastructure would be able to operate at its design capacity despite sharply changed climatic conditions. This means making a conscious shift away from a business as usual approach in which capital flows to non-sustainable polluting industries, practices, and technologies. As Ambassador Pierre and Kiara mentioned, renewable energy is playing a critical role in the country's green development. Kenya is home to Africa's largest private sector funded renewable energy projects, such as the Lake Turkana wind power project and the Olkaria 3 geothermal power plants, which have already been mentioned. To date, however, domestic financial sector participation in these investments has been very limited. The government articulates strong high-level policy commitment to inclusive green economic growth and investment as expressed clearly in the country's constitution and the Vision 2030 and the second medium-term plan, which is MTP2. Kenya's aspiration to become a middle-income country based on developing green investment growth. The current level of public sector investment of between 8 and 10% is expected to be sustained with the bulk of the overall investment expected from the private sector. Such policy commitments across the range of institutions envision a vibrant and globally competitive Kenyan financial sector, allocating capital to a more inclusive, greener economy and creating general awareness about this shift. As has already been articulated in this virtual forum today, Kenya is looking for ways to strengthen and advance green business and circular economy, which, as you all know, is a pathway to the achievement of green economy. Indeed, green business is core to sustainable development and not only have multiple benefits such as environmental protection, but notably create economic growth and job creation. We also believe that key enablers for a transition to a green economy is access to green businesses, green financing, enabling policies and standards, networking, and with innovative solutions such as what has been discussed in this forum this morning. To promote the diffusion and to scale up the uptake of environmentally sound and innovative technologies, the regulatory and political framework for trade and investment in such technologies needs to be decisively reshaped. And I believe UNIDO can come in to fill in the gap for us. An essential step is to support the country to remove barriers to trade in certain goods like wind turbines, solar panels, carbon dioxide scrubbers, and the rest. Of particular importance for environmental protection and climate change mitigation and adaptation has been discussed in the negotiations of the Environmental Goods Agreement as an example. Kenya stands ready to promote and invest in environmentally sound technologies through international, regional, and bilateral trade agreements. As you may appreciate, a proper enabling framework is an essential precondition for private investment in these green technologies, as well as green projects that generate economic returns. To this end, international partners' support is needed, therefore, to enhance Kenya's capacity for establishing stable policy, regulatory environment, for instance, to build societal capacity in areas like education, training, especially in science and engineering, which Dr. Kiva has really emphasized is extremely important if you have to go green, to emphasize on these points. We also need fundamental research infrastructure. There's creating enabling environment frameworks in intellectual property rights, investment technology deployment, access to markets, technology transfer, efficient and predictable regulatory and permit processes. With this, dear colleagues and UNIDO, I want to conclude by saying we are very grateful for the organization of this, and the opportunity are enormous as has been exhibited. And thank you once again for organizing this very informative, and I believe we'll get a phase 2 of it. Thank you so much, and back to you, Rela.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your participation in this virtual event and for closing this webinar. We are grateful to the Embassy of Kenya in Rome for its continued support. Thank you very much to all the panelists for being with us today. And thank you to all those who followed this virtual event. It has been a pleasure to organize and moderate this webinar. To conclude this event, I think it's very important to stress that this webinar has represented only the first opportunity to foster exchanges between the private sector in Italy and in Kenya in energy and environment. UNIDO ITPO Italy will organize follow-up activities as well as technical and sectoral meetings. Please visit our website unido.it for more information on this project and on the Doing Green Business series. And stay tuned for next Wednesday's episode. Goodbye, arrivederci, and thank you again for your participation.
Grazie mille.
Grazie a tutti, thank you.